Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is a client that I recently had who is going to be in a wedding, and her shirt straps, the shoulders were too long. This is after I pinned it up, and this fabric is up there is going to be what I removed. Where the safety pins were, I marked it with this ink. It's ink that is steamable, so it steams out. It's removable. I take my roller and go all the way across with those lines, and I do it to the front and then also to the back. The main fabric and then the lining. I get all those lines transferred and really, really clear. And now all this top stitching, I'm going to remove it around my new seam lines. So beyond the seam lines, I'm going to make sure that I remove enough, because you have to remove these to be able to get inside and mess with the actual seam lines, because these understitching lines, you call it understitching, those are going to get in the way. So I have to remove those before I actually go into the garment and change those seam lines. And now you see it's all gone. There was 2 lines of stitching that I had to remove. Now I have to go into the dress. I have to find where the actual seams are of the shoulder seams. They're all on the inside. So I have to go through layers and try to find them so that I can access them and get them on my sewing machine. So here I'm going to pull out what I think it is. Let me see if this is the correct one. And nope, it ends. Those are not the seams. So you gotta pull it back out and go look and figure out how I'm gonna get up into there. So now I'm going up under these layers, which I didn't do before. I just went under the lace. But it's 3 layers. It's the lace, it's this lining, and then there's another lining. So it's 3 layers total. And there are my seams. I found it. Now this is a tack right here, just a few little stitches I have to remove. It's just a couple layers that are stitched together, and it's usually found right at the loop keeper, like that shiny satin you see. That's those loops that go onto the hanger. Now these are the stitches that are holding the outside of the straps together. So I have to remove those first to get to the actual shoulder seams that I need to change. And so I remove that on both sides. Here I'm opening up one side, and you see that's into the tube. That's all the fabric that got pulled through. Here's that loop, and I'm going to remove the loop, you can make it shorter and just leave it and stitch it into the new seam, and then it's just gonna be shorter. I like taking a little extra time and just taking it off and then shifting it so that it doesn't end up too short. Not a huge deal, but just something I like to do. And then go to the other side and just get all those stitches out from the seam. And here is something else you will pretty commonly find in women's evening wear. It's this clear elastic that they put around the seams. It's like a kind of stabilizer. You can either sew it back on or cut it out. There's already a lot going on and a lot that I have to put back together, so I'm not gonna deal with it. Then here's the 2 layers of the lining. And so that's the back side. That's the side that's touching the skin. So that lining, there's a seam there that I have to change. And then also there's gonna be a seam on the top where there's 2 layers of fabric, like a lining like this, and then also the lace. So this is one side, and then there's gonna be another side. And you see all that bulk right there, it does make it kind of difficult to access, so you can use a zipper foot if you have trouble getting in there. Now get some scissors, and then I'm gonna trim off this extra fabric. If you're really trying to be careful and paranoid, you can leave it on, but I like reducing the bulk. I don't like all that bulky fabric on the inside, so I just go ahead and cut it off and trust that the fitting was accurate. Now this is the other seam on the other side of that tube. This is that main layer, and you're gonna undo that just because the lines don't, like the 2 seam lines, like where I folded it in the fitting, it's not perfectly symmetrical. So I'm just making sure that those seam lines match up. And here's that seam after it's sewn and then it was trimmed. And now those 2 sides of the strap of that sleeve, I'm going to put back together. Those were the stitches that I was taking out a while ago. There I pinned it. There's the old stitch line that I have to make sure that the new stitches I do are gonna go right into that original seam line. So you wanna make sure that those are exposed. Like, see here, there's still some top stitching. Like, I didn't take enough top stitching out or under stitching. And so I'm gonna remove some of that because it is, it's covering up that stitch line that I need to get access to in order to sew those back together. Now I'm gonna pull that out, and it's all done. I don't worry about putting the understitching back because it's pretty difficult, and since it is a smaller section, I'm just not gonna worry about it. And just give it a good press. If you're really like worried about it, then you can always put some hand stitching in there, but it's just way too complicated a lot of times to try to get that that understitching back in. So I'm just going to tidy it up, and then this is the finished result. Now this is the one side, and you can see the comparison between the side that I shortened and the side that still has to be shortened. You can see, yeah, just the differences. It does change. It made it a little bit wider because now it's at a different spot, like the seam is at a different spot on the design. So it does change the shape a little bit. And this is after I did both sides. One side is a little bit longer than the other, and that's just because the client's body was a little bit asymmetrical, which is really common, and that's why during the fitting I always fit each shoulder. I don't just match them. Thanks for watching. Till next time.